Three.
Okay, you're all set.
Okay, good evening, everyone. This is the Laws and Rules Committee meeting. It is 6:36. I'm going to call this meeting to order. In attendance, we have Alderpersons Frankel, Scott Childress. We have also Alderman Tony Davis here participating virtually. We have the mayor here, Mayor Noble. We also have Assistant Court Counsel Jonathan Clark at his desk. Jonathan Clark here, and we also have Clerk Elisa Tenty. So we're going to go ahead and open our meeting, and the first item on our agenda is under new business, the release of restriction. And Mayor Noble, are you talking about that as well? Release of restriction or no?
I don't have that one. I think that that's just a general item that Janet has to do every once in a while when someone goes to sell a house that had one of those old reverter restrictions on it. So I don't know any details, but I did see it in the packet.
Okay, so we're just removing that restriction then. Okay,
Yes.
all right. All right, so can I get a motion, please? I don't have any committee reports.
Have any?
No.
I have
Let's see. Wait a minute. I have one. Or check.
And you have one from me.
Again.
All right, let me call for that motion again, please, Wilson.
I move that we adopt the resolution to release this property from the word clause in the contract.
Okay, make a second. Second by Frankel. All in favor? Any opposed? Let's see. Okay. All right, so that is adopted, moved. Item number 2, amending section 1 of resolution 179 of 2012. That is Mayor Noble.
Well, thank you very much, Chairperson Worthington. So this is related to our contracts that we issue for all of our public works projects over $100,000. We, back in 2012, added language to our contracts that basically indicated that any of the contractors that do that type of work for the city needed to have an apprenticeship program, which is basically a job training program to be able to work with new people in the field, to be able to get them the skills that they need to then go on to have these professions. Obviously, that's something that has been very well received in New York State and great for our, kind of creating that whole nother generation of workers. One of the things that we felt would be, I think, a strong addition to our policy, and something that recently the county also had put in place, was to actually have a graduation rate so that we could make sure that anyone that has an apprenticeship program is actually graduating people. Because it's one thing to have a program, it's another thing to be able to make sure that they're following through on actually teaching young men and women this new career, and then actually being able to have them go into the profession by actually graduating the apprenticeship program. And so we have 2 sentences that we would like to add that basically indicates that we would make sure that as a part of any of these construction projects that they have to have a graduation rate of 30%, which would be determined by the New York State Department of Labor, and that they would have to provide documentation that a minimum of 3 trade-specific graduates per calendar year would also graduate. And we feel like that's a very, still a low bar, but a bar that we feel like is a higher bar than what currently exists today, which is no bar. And so we think that this is a good step forward Again, this is similar to something that the county and other jurisdictions have done here in New York State. And so we're basically just asking to have this, these two sentences added to that resolution that was adopted in 2012 to add that language so that we can include it as part of our bid packages when we do these large public works projects.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? No?
Well, actually, do we have any data now as to the graduation rates? Is
No,
this
so
in response to something specific or just?
Yeah, currently we don't. So we don't have that as a documentation requirement right now. All we require is that someone attest that they have an apprenticeship program. And currently we aren't able to ask for any more details. And so this would allow us to basically ask for proof that they're actually graduating some students from the program.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other questions?
I move that we adopt this resolution.
Adopt resolution 179,
Second.
2012. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, any opposers? No opposers?
Thank you.
All right, so moved. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you all very much. Have a good night, okay?
Yeah.
Aye, thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, bye.
All right, and that is our old business. New business. I'm sorry, our new business. We are moving to our old business. Hi, Andrea.
Sorry, wait.
We have on the, number one is the repeal of the Second Amendment. This was something that was tabled from the last Laws and Rules Committee. Really didn't want to have any more discussion on that. You want to say anything else on
No,
that?
we talked about having more discussion on the issue, and so I think with that suggested that instead of going forward with the specific item, that we just table it permanently, take it off. So I move that we table it permanently. If there's a second, then we can have a vote.
Okay, second.
And there can be no discussion on a table vote, so
Okay. All in favor?
aye.
No opposers. So we are voting to table that and permanently take that off of the agenda. Thank
Can
you.
you see that?
All right. Number two, we're going to ask Clerk Lisa Tinty to come up and talk to us about the scattering of ashes. This was also something that was tabled last Laws and Rules Committee.
So I met with Lindsay, because the way I believe it was left was that it was a good idea, but really needed more information as to exactly how you wanted to go about this. So I met with Lindsay because she's the director of Parks and Rec. And her suggestion is that 3 parks be designated as parks where ashes could be scattered. And they are Barnum Park, Lauren Park, and Hutton Park. And she chose those parks because of their proximity away from water. Because the state is very strict, DC is very strict on the regulations to scatter ashes anywhere near bodies of water. And they regulate that, so we didn't want to be anywhere involved where there could be the possibility of someone being too close to a waterway. And she also felt that there should be specific designated areas at the park. And that she would then have signage made to show exactly where in the park. And again, she thought it would be best if it were away from where someone would be, like not right at the pavilion, where someone could possibly be there eating their dinner or with their children. So it's someplace that would be private to offer the respect that is necessary for that type of event, but also be away from somebody else who might be unhappy or offended by something like that happening where they are possibly eating or something like that. And she would like them to register to do it. So that she did agree that there should be no fee because they are also, they're mourning or this is a sacred event. And, but that the Parks Department should just have notification and to make sure that there's no conflict, that there could be a large gathering happening already, somebody who's already reserved the park, and then for somebody to come in and you don't know, they could be coming in with 50 people. So those were the recommendations from Lindsay.
So if somebody doesn't register with you, with the city, goes ahead and does it, and there's a problem of some sort, is there a penalty structure, or is it just, oops, a problem?
It would just be a problem because, what we're told is that it happens right now all the time. So it's happening.
So we're basically just trying to institutionalize it a bit,
Um,
because it's not gonna stop people from not contacting the government, just doing it the way they do it.
Well-
right?
like anything else that they do.
Any other questions? The only thing is, I'm sorry, what three parks was it?
Barman, Lauren, and Button.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I do. The sign, so it's gonna be a sign in each spot, I mean, is that,
She thought that,
maybe I'm just too cynical, and I don't know. Cranky person these days, so I'm just seeing people as, like,
that was just her suggestion that within the park.
I worry that people will taunt the area if they see that, not the mourners necessarily, but people are like, oh, disrespecting the land if they know it, but maybe that's just me being a cynical person.
She thought maybe that would be an area where people would wanna go. That this is where.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, I'm just seeing it from the other side, so I just want to throw that out
Are
there.
you talking like devil worshippers or something?
What do you mean?
So the signage would be placed where the actual scattering of the ashes would be. So, right, so for instance, yeah, what would the
Maybe an
sign, the
area.
sign would say, what would the sign
I
say?
don't even know.
Yeah, I just feel like if people don't know it's there, they're not gonna disrespect it, but if people see it, like ashes are here. Like, people are, there are a lot of wonderful people in this world, but there are also a couple mean
You
people.
have to come up with what, well, the sign is gonna have to.
And with the sign, and I don't know if there's something like, if you guys really want the sign, if it could be something that's
choose to
It's not like ashes are here, it could just be like, I don't know. You cannot,
Right, you might not wanna have the word ashes, but that's your decision.
Well, I was gonna
Is
say, you
signage
have to
part of
come
the
up with
legislation?
some kind of verbiage.
I'm sorry, what?
Is signage part of the legislation?
It was her suggestion that it would be.
It wouldn't-
more-
But it's not in what we would pass, right?
No,
Yeah, so I would say pass, and I like the idea of saying 3 parks. Say, ashes can be scattered there, but if people have to get approval in the first place, then I think that would be the place for whoever the official is signing the paper to say, this is generally an area. Because I agree with you, putting up a sign could lead to other folks deciding to use it for other purposes.
It depends on what the sign says.
yeah, I could just see people doing mean things.
And I also think that in terms of legislation, it's best to leave it to the executive branch, if you will, to do the details. This strikes me as a detail that's really falling below.
Well, it's
We
the
need to be
policy
considered.
that we're doing, so I think it's, at least in our, like, we can make the suggestions a little bit. I mean, that's what she's doing
Yes.
for us, so.
absolutely.
I mean, I see no harm in these. I'm neutral on this, but if they try it and it turns out to be problematic, they can move it. We just don't want to be requiring a sign. I don't think I want to get hung up on it. I just want to say, sure, let's do these 3 parts, we'll leave it to the Department of Parks to fill in the blanks, right? That's what I.
Well,
If we can make a
we have to-
recommendation, I think it's a good recommendation, but
I mean, if we're going to decide, if there's going to be a designated area, that's what Lindsay suggests, right? Designated area, yeah.
And how the public is notified of that is at your discretion, so a sign or
Or it could
when
just.
they
When they-
register,
when they
they're told,
register.
this is where we suggest we do it.
Yeah, that's what we can always add a sign if people are like, it's just still confusing.
Right.
If they're already doing it, I just, I'm not seeing, but I'm thinking about the things that people would do if they saw a sign, ooh, there are ashes here.
Graffiti on the.
See, like, I just think it would be disrespectful. I would worry about that, even if one person were to disrespect.
Totally get
It
it.
would break people's hearts
Totally get
if
it.
they saw it.
Okay, so we will, take the signage part out of it. And, when people register, then you all can, or officials, whoever they speak to, will be able to point them in the right direction.
Can we get like, it would be your office, or would you then talk to parks?
I would be directing them to parks, because I don't have park schedule of other events that they have going on, so parks would be in charge.
Or maybe they could have a map, sort of, these are the three parks, you say you want to do Barman, here's a map of, here X is the spot where we recommend you do it. And then you don't need the sign there, it's just for them, they know where they're going. And I just think that's.
And then it's more private.
Yeah,
All right, well, okay, so let's see how the resolution reads. Resolution to scatter ashes at 3 public parks, which include Barman Park, Warren Park, Hutton Park, and to have a specific designated area to scatter ashes with no fee registration.
Maybe as determined by the director of
What did you say, Brenda?
As determined by the Director of Recs and Parks and Recreation.
just so it's clear who's making that decision. I move that we adopt this resolution.
I will second it.
In favor?
I-
Scott Childers. Okay, thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
All right, so we move to the rezoning application. Golden Hill, you guys got the letter from the planning board?
I'd like to ask for a brief attorney-client session to discuss something.
if we don't need to motion, we could just go in, attorney-client session, we could just go in.
Okay. All right, we're going to move into.
Do we don't have anybody
We
on.
don't have anybody out, but we just wanna,
Well, so we'll have
It's
to,
live streaming.
right, we'll
We just-
use this, turn the video off, but we don't have council members, so we don't have to make a call.
All right, and you'll come
And
Which is surprising, I really thought
There's
this county,
whatever I put up there is from the.
planning,
Planning,
yeah,
city planning.
but I was surprised the county, but
if you'll be seeing.
I can contact them tomorrow and confirm.
Right, yeah, well, I guess we still have council, yeah, if you could do that, that'd be good, but before the full vote.
Okay,
HLBC did respond that they anticipated no impact on historic properties. That is therefore outside their jurisdiction. I'm less familiar with the county's comments.
okay, so we've resumed our Laws and Rules Committee meeting. And we are on item number 3, rezoning application for Golden Hill. All right, yes,
I move that we approve the request to rezone 63, that we adopt this request to rezone the parcel SBL 56.40, et cetera, from RR to O-2.
second,
Yep.
all right, motion made by everybody, Scott.
I'd like to discuss just a second.
Can I get you, just let me get the motion, so.
Sure.
Motion made by Bernie Scott Childress, seconded by Carl Franco. Any discussion?
Yeah, I just want to make it clear, a number of issues have been raised by citizens. We're very concerned about those issues. But the only specific issue before us tonight is whether or not to approve the request for this zoning change. And from what we're looking at, from the contiguity of this property to another O2 zone, to the approval of this concept from the planning board, I think that this definitely passes muster. So I would be voting in favor of this rezoning request.
All right. Thank you. Any other discussion? All right, I'm gonna ask for a motion. I'm sorry, I'm gonna ask all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposers? Okay, so that has moved. The resolution was to adopt the request of the rezoning from RRR to O2 SBL 56.40-1-19.300. Okay. All right, thank you. The last item on the agenda was added, and that had to do with the rent guidelines board. We were told that one of the applicants was not accepted.
I didn't, Bartow didn't say why, if it was the applicant who backed out, or if it was the state that said it didn't work,
Okay,
but we have one less name.
so we have a vacancy now.
We have a vacancy.
Do we know, can we share the name of who is not, who this person is?
Jonathan, we can, right, because he was appointed on it, we just can't talk about the applicants. Or should we do all of it, because I know who the person is, or should it be attorney?
Yeah,
client?
the person it was sent
He
to us.
was already in the paper that he
Yeah, it was sent
was.
to us.
I'm not certain if there's specific concerns on that.
Can we go into attorney client session, please?
Certainly.
Or just we have to talk about the other
The numbers.
applicants anyway in there, so before I say the name, let's just.
Okay, so we're gonna move into attorney-client session, so we're gonna ask that the live video feed be turned
But you guys say this, the purpose to talk about a personnel appointment matter.
Okay.
You got it?
Yeah.
We are live, right?
Yes, we are live. I mistakenly said this is attorney-client session. This is actually needs to go into executive session because we're talking about personnel. So.
We'll
if
call
you
for a
can call
motion to go into executive session.
Motion.
Second. Second by Reverend Scott Childers. Okay, we're going to go into executive session. So once again, we're going to ask that live feed be turned off and muted. Barbara, thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
BB,
Barbara.
Oh, that makes me think of more educated. Oh, man, I'm hungry.
okay, so we are entering back into our laws and rules committee meeting. Our clerk is back in the room, and I now have, let me read the resolution.
Yep.
Um,
It doesn't say name on it, right?
No. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, recommending a member of the public for appointment by the Commissioner of Housing and Community Renewal to the City of Kingston Rent Guidelines Board. Can I get a motion?
A motion that we accept the resolution. Adopted.
Seconded?
Yes.
Frankel? Any questions?
Actually, the last time we did this, we did give the names out, so we actually could.
Once we did the motion, once we got them all together, we certainly did. We named them.
Yeah, when we came back, so I remember sending to the press, but it doesn't, that committee report is good enough.
There were no questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposers? No? All right, so then that does it. And that is the end of our meeting. All items have been taken care of. Motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Second. We are adjourned at 7:29. Thank you.
Rita.
And I think there was one committee report